The millionaire was about to sign a fraudulent contract until the cleaning lady warned him about the clause. You're about to discover an incredible story that will completely change how you think. Dismissing someone because of their job title can be the costliest mistake you'll ever make. If you're ready for a journey that will open your eyes to the hidden expertise all around us, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss stories like this one. Now let's dive into this amazing tale that begins in the marble corridors of a Wall Street law firm, where a moment of attention from someone deemed invisible is about to save a fortune and expose a massive conspiracy. Dumpstery. Chapter 1. The Trap. Perfectly set. The 42nd floor of the Meridian Tower housed the most prestigious law offices in Manhattan, where billion-dollar deals were negotiated and corporate empires were built or destroyed with the stroke of a pen. In the mahogany-paneled conference room overlooking Central Park, tech mogul Alexander Chen, 48, prepared to sign what he believed would be the most lucrative contract of his extraordinary career. Alexander had built Chen Tech Industries from a garage startup into a $3.2 billion artificial intelligence empire, revolutionizing everything from medical diagnostics to autonomous vehicles. His company's neural network algorithms were considered the most advanced in the world, making him a target for acquisition by every major technology corporation on the planet. Today's meeting represented the culmination of 6 months of negotiations with European conglomerate Steinberg International, whose offer of $4.8 billion would make Alexander one of the wealthiest tech entrepreneurs in history. The contract, all 847 pages of dense legal language, lay before him like a golden gateway to unimaginable wealth and influence. "Mr. Chen," said Marcus Steinberg, the silver-haired CEO whose family dynasty had controlled European manufacturing for 3 generations, "this acquisition will position Chen Tech at the forefront of global AI development while providing you with the resources to expand beyond your current limitations." Alexander nodded, his excitement barely contained. "The synergies are perfect, Marcus. Your manufacturing capabilities combined with our AI technology will create market dominance that competitors won't be able to match." What Alexander didn't know was that the contract before him contained carefully crafted language designed to transfer not just his company, but also his personal assets, intellectual property rights, and future earning potential to Steinberg International. The acquisition was actually a sophisticated financial trap that would leave Alexander wealthy on paper, but powerless in reality, while Steinberg gained control of revolutionary technology worth far more than their offer price. The legal team surrounding the conference table represented some of the most expensive attorneys in New York: James Morrison from Sullivan & Cromwell, Patricia Walsh from Cravath, Swain & Moore, and David Kim from Skadden, Arps, lawyers whose hourly rates exceeded most people's monthly salaries. Yet none of them were working in Alexander's interest, despite their obligation to represent him. They had been quietly compromised through a combination of financial incentives and professional pressure that made exposing the contract's true nature career suicide. "The terms are quite straightforward," explained Morrison, Alexander's supposed advocate. "Standard acquisition language with appropriate protections for both parties." Alexander trusted Morrison completely. They had worked together for 5 years, and Morrison had guided Alexander through numerous successful deals that had built his fortune. Alexander had no reason to suspect that his trusted attorney was now working against him in the most consequential transaction of his life. As Alexander reached for his platinum pen to begin signing the contract, Maria Santos entered the conference room quietly, pushing her cleaning cart with the practiced invisibility that had made her presence unnoticed in hundreds of high-stakes business meetings over the past 8 years. Maria, 51, worked the evening shift at Meridian Tower, arriving at 6 p.m. when most lawyers and executives had departed for expensive dinners and exclusive social events. She cleaned offices, conference rooms and hallways while listening to fragments of conversations, observing document drafts, and witnessing the human drama that unfolded in New York's centers of power. What the assembled lawyers and executives didn't know was that Maria Santos possessed one of the sharpest legal minds they would ever encounter. Born in Colombia to a family of attorneys, Maria had earned her law degree from Universidad Nacional de Colombia and had practiced corporate law for 15 years before political violence forced her family to flee to the United States as refugees. In Colombia, Maria had specialized in international corporate acquisitions and had developed expertise in identifying fraudulent contract, language designed to deceive sellers while enriching buyers. She had exposed dozens of corrupt deals and had built a reputation as someone who could detect legal deception that others missed. But in New York, her foreign credentials weren't recognized, her accent was dismissed as unprofessional, and her survival depended on work that rendered her invisible to the very people who could have benefited from her expertise. For 8 years, Maria had cleaned the offices where billion-dollar deals were negotiated, watching brilliant business people make catastrophic decisions because they trusted the wrong advisors or missed crucial details in complex contracts. She had witnessed fraud, manipulation, and betrayal disguised as legitimate business transactions, but her position as cleaning staff meant that any warnings she might offer would be dismissed as the confused observations of someone who couldn't possibly understand sophisticated legal matters. As Maria began dusting the expensive artwork that decorated the conference room, she couldn't help but notice the contract spread across the table. Her trained eye immediately recognized the document's structure, a standard acquisition agreement with what appeared to be normal terms and conditions. But as she moved closer to empty the wastebaskets, her legal experience allowed her to spot something that the highly paid attorneys had either missed or chosen to ignore. Clause 47B, buried deep within the contract's appendices, contained language that would transfer Alexander's personal intellectual property rights to Steinberg International in perpetuity. This meant that any future innovations, patents, or technological developments Alexander created, even after leaving Chentech, would automatically belong to Steinberg. Alexander would essentially become an intellectual slave, unable to profit from his own future creativity. Clause 52C was even more insidious. It contained a material adverse change provision that would allow Steinberg to reduce the acquisition price by up to 90% if Chentech's valuation decreased for any reason within 5 years of the sale. Given Steinberg's ability to manipulate market conditions and compete directly with Chentech's products, this clause virtually guaranteed that Alexander would receive only a fraction of the promised payment. Most devastating of all was Clause 78D, which assigned Alexander's existing patents and trade secrets to a Steinberg subsidiary that would then license them back to the combined companies at rates that would effectively eliminate Alexander's ongoing royalties and profit participation. Maria realized she was looking at one of the most sophisticated corporate fraud schemes she had ever encountered. Alexander Chen, despite his technological brilliance, was about to sign away not just his company, but his entire professional future to people who viewed him as a useful asset to be exploited rather than a partner to be respected. The question was whether someone in Maria's position could find a way to warn Alexander without destroying her own livelihood or being dismissed as a cleaning lady who had overstepped her bounds. As Alexander lifted his pen to sign the first page of the contract, Maria faced a decision that would test her courage, her principles, and her willingness to risk everything to prevent a brilliant man from being destroyed by his own trust and the greed of those who surrounded him. The moment of truth was approaching, and Maria had seconds to decide whether to speak up or watch a fraud unfold in silence. If you're as concerned as we are about Alexander's fate and as intrigued by Maria's hidden expertise, make sure you've hit that like button and subscribed to our channel, because what happens next will change both their lives forever. Chapter 2. The moment when courage speaks. As Alexander's pen hovered inches above the signature line, Maria Santos made a decision that would either save a man's fortune or destroy her own livelihood. Taking a deep breath, she stepped forward from her position near the wastebasket and spoke in clear, accented English that carried the authority of someone who had spent decades navigating complex legal documents. "Excuse me, Mr. Chen," Maria said quietly, her voice cutting through the expectant silence of the conference room. "I'm very sorry to interrupt, but I think there's something important you should know about that contract." The reaction was immediate and telling. Marcus Steinberg's face hardened with annoyance, at having their carefully orchestrated moment disrupted by what he clearly considered insignificant staff. Attorney James Morrison looked shocked that a cleaning person would dare to interrupt a multi-billion-dollar transaction. The other lawyers exchanged glances that mixed embarrassment with outrage at this unprecedented breach of corporate protocol. "I'm sorry," Morrison said with barely concealed irritation, "but this is a private business meeting. Perhaps you could return later to finish your cleaning duties." Alexander looked up from the contract, his expression curious rather than angry. Something in Maria's tone had caught his attention, not the tentative voice of someone offering casual observation, but the confident manner of someone who had identified a serious problem. "What kind of something?" Alexander asked, ignoring Morrison's attempt to dismiss Maria. Maria felt her heart racing as every eye in the Iowa room focused on her. She was about to cross a line that could cost her not just this job, but any hope of employment in Manhattan's legal community, but her conscience wouldn't allow her to watch Alexander unknowingly destroy his future. "Mr. Chen, I've been cleaning offices in this building for 8 years, and I've learned to recognize certain types of contract language," Maria began carefully. "What I see in this document contains several clauses that will transfer far more than your company. How does Steinberg International?" Steinberg stood up abruptly, his sophisticated facade slipping to reveal the calculating predator beneath. "This is outrageous. Security should remove this woman immediately. She has no business involving herself in confidential corporate negotiations." But Alexander raised his hand, his technological mind always alert to unexpected sources of valuable information. "Wait, Maria, what specifically concerns you about this contract?" Maria knew she had one chance to prove her credibility before being dismissed as a delusional cleaning lady. She walked to the contract and pointed to specific sections with the precision of someone who had reviewed thousands of similar documents. "Clause 47B transfers all your personal intellectual property rights in perpetuity," Maria said, her voice growing stronger as she accessed the legal expertise she had been forced to hide for 8 years. "This means any innovation you create for the rest of your life will belong to Steinberg, even if you develop it independently after leaving your company." Morrison scoffed dismissively. "That's a standard intellectual property protection clause. Nothing unusual about—" "No, it's not standard," Maria interrupted, with the confidence of someone who knew corporate law better than most attorneys in the room. "Standard clauses protect company-developed IP during employment. This clause claims ownership of your personal creativity forever, which is legally questionable and ethically unconscionable." Alexander felt his excitement about the deal beginning to curdle into suspicion. "What else did you notice?" Maria pointed to another section of the contract. "Clause 52C allows Steinberg to reduce your payment by up to 90% if your company's valuation decreases within 5 years. Given that they'll control your technology and can develop competing products, they can artificially depress your company's value and keep most of the money they promised you." The lawyers around the table began looking uncomfortable as Maria continued her analysis with devastating precision. "And Clause 78D assigns your existing patents to a Steinberg subsidiary that will license them back to your combined companies at rates that eliminate your ongoing royalties," Maria continued. "You'll be paying to use your own innovations." Steinberg's mask of sophisticated civility completely collapsed. "This is absurd. We're supposed to take legal advice from a janitor? This woman doesn't understand the complexities of international corporate law." Maria looked directly at Steinberg, her years of enforced subservience finally giving way to professional authority. "Mr. Steinberg, I understand corporate law better than you assume. I practiced international acquisition law for 15 years in Colombia before coming to the United States. I've reviewed hundreds of contracts like this one, and I've seen what happens to sellers who trust buyers with questionable intentions." The room fell silent as the implications of Maria's revelation sank in. Alexander stared at the woman who had been cleaning his building for 8 years, realizing that he had been unknowingly surrounded by expertise he had never recognized. "Maria?" Alexander said slowly. "You're a lawyer?" "I was a lawyer," Maria replied with quiet dignity. "In my country, I specialized in identifying fraudulent acquisition schemes designed to deceive sellers while enriching buyers. I've seen contracts exactly like This one destroy brilliant entrepreneurs who trusted the wrong people. Alexander turned to Morrison with growing anger. James, did you know about these clauses? Morrison's response revealed the extent of the conspiracy surrounding Alexander. Alex, these are standard protective measures that— Stop lying to me, Alexander interrupted, his technological mind now processing the situation with algorithmic precision. Maria just identified 3 clauses that would destroy my financial future, and you're trying to convince me they're standard provisions. The truth was becoming clear to everyone in the room. Morrison, Walsh and Kim had been compromised, either through financial incentives or professional pressure, to guide Alexander into a contract that would benefit Steinberg, while destroying Alexander's wealth and future earning potential. Steinberg made one final attempt to salvage his fraudulent scheme. Mr. Chen, surely you're not going to allow this cleaning person to interfere with a legitimate business transaction worth billions of dollars. Alexander looked at Maria, then at the expensive lawyers who had been prepared to guide him into financial ruin, then at Steinberg, whose desperation to complete the signing was now clearly visible. Marcus, Alexander said with cold fury, the only person in this room who has shown genuine concern for my welfare is the woman you want to dismiss as insignificant. Maria identified problems that 5 attorneys either missed or chose to hide from me. He stood up and gathered the contract pages scattered across the table. This deal is cancelled. Maria, I need to speak with you privately. I think I've been getting legal advice from the wrong people. As Steinberg and the compromised attorneys filed out of the conference room in defeat and embarrassment, Alexander found himself alone with the cleaning lady who had just saved him from losing everything he had worked his entire life to build. Maria, Alexander said with genuine gratitude, I don't know how to thank you. You just saved me from making the biggest mistake of my life. Maria smiled sadly. Mr. Chen, I've been watching deals like this happen for 8 years, seeing good people deceived by those they trusted. I couldn't stay silent and watch you be destroyed when I had the knowledge to help. Alexander realized that his assumptions about intelligence, expertise, and social hierarchy had nearly cost him his fortune and his future. The person with the most valuable insights had been invisible to him for 8 years, dismissed as unimportant because of her job title rather than recognized for her capabilities. Maria, Alexander said, I have a proposition for you. How would you feel about practicing law again? Chapter 3. The revelation that changed everything. 24 hours after Maria Santos had saved him from financial ruin, Alexander Chen sat in his private office with a stack of documents that revealed the full scope of the conspiracy he had nearly fallen victim to. Maria sat across from him, no longer wearing her cleaning uniform, but dressed in the professional attire of someone whose legal expertise was finally being recognized and respected. The investigation you requested confirms our worst suspicions, Maria reported, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had spent the night analyzing financial records, corporate communications, and legal documents with the skill of a seasoned attorney. Steinberg International has executed this same fraudulent acquisition scheme against at least 12 other technology companies over the past 5 years. Alexander studied the evidence Maria had compiled, his anger growing as he understood the sophisticated nature of the conspiracy. How did they compromise my legal team? James Morrison has been receiving consulting fees from a Steinberg subsidiary for the past 2 years, Maria explained, pulling up financial records that revealed the depth of the betrayal. Patricia Walsh's law firm was promised a $50 million retainer for Steinberg's future legal work if the acquisition proceeded as planned. David Kim was facing professional disciplinary action that Steinberg offered to resolve through their political connections. The revelation that his trusted advisors had been working against him was devastating, but Alexander was more impressed by Maria's investigative abilities than shocked by the corruption she had uncovered. Maria, how did you discover all this in just one day? Maria smiled with the satisfaction of someone whose skills were finally being properly utilized. Mr. Chen, I spent 15 years investigating corporate fraud in Colombia. I know how to trace financial connections, identify shell companies, and uncover the paper trails that reveal conspiracy. Last night I used the same techniques that helped me expose corruption in my home country. Alexander realized that he had been employing one of Latin America's most skilled corporate investigators, as a cleaning lady for 8 years, completely blind to her capabilities because of his assumptions about domestic workers. "Tell me about the other companies that fell for this scheme," Alexander said. Maria pulled up a presentation that would have impressed the most sophisticated corporate analysts. Steinberg targeted technology companies with revolutionary innovations, but relatively inexperienced leadership. They used compromised legal teams to guide founders into contracts that transferred intellectual property, while minimizing actual payments through various escape clauses. The pattern was chillingly consistent. Young entrepreneurs with brilliant technologies but limited business experience were approached by Steinberg with offers that seemed too good to refuse. Their legal advisors, either compromised through financial incentives or intimidated through professional pressure, guided them into contracts that made them wealthy on paper, while transferring real control and future profits to Steinberg. The most tragic case was Sarah Martinez in Austin, Maria continued. She developed revolutionary battery technology that could have transformed electric vehicles. Steinberg acquired her company for $800 million, but the contract clauses reduced her actual payment to $23 million, while transferring all future development rights to Steinberg's subsidiaries. Alexander felt sick as he realized how close he had come to suffering the same fate. Where is Sarah now? Working as a mid-level engineer at a Steinberg subsidiary, developing improvements to her own stolen technology, while Steinberg profits from her innovations, Maria replied sadly. She signed a non-compete clause that prevents her from working for any competing company or starting a new business in her field. The scope of Steinberg's predatory practices was staggering, but Alexander was most impressed by Maria's ability to uncover and analyze the conspiracy with remarkable speed and precision. "Maria, I need to ask you something important," Alexander said. "Would you be willing to help me not just avoid this fraud, but expose the entire Steinberg operation and help the other victims recover their stolen assets?" Maria's eyes lit up with the excitement of someone being offered the chance to use her skills for something truly meaningful. "Mr. Chen, I've been waiting 8 years for an opportunity to practice law again and help people who have been victimized by corporate predators. Nothing would make me happier. There's one condition," Alexander added with a smile. "You'd be doing this as my new general counsel, not as a consultant or contractor. I want to offer you a full partnership in protecting Chentech and helping other entrepreneurs avoid the traps that nearly destroyed me." Maria felt tears forming in her eyes as she processed Alexander's offer. After 8 years of hiding her expertise and working in positions that didn't utilize her capabilities, she was being offered not just employment, but partnership with one of the most successful technology entrepreneurs in the world. "Mr. Chen, are you certain you want to trust someone whose credentials you didn't even know existed until yesterday?" Alexander laughed. "Maria, in the past 24 hours, you've saved me from losing billions of dollars, exposed a massive corporate conspiracy, and provided more valuable legal insight than attorneys I've paid millions over the years. Your credentials aren't what matters. Your results are." Over the next month, Maria led an investigation that would revolutionize how the technology industry protected itself from predatory acquisition schemes. Working with federal prosecutors, international law enforcement, and financial regulators, she documented Steinberg's fraudulent practices across multiple jurisdictions and helped build cases that would recover billions of dollars for victimized entrepreneurs. The investigation revealed that Steinberg International was essentially a sophisticated criminal organization that used legitimate business facades to steal intellectual property and manipulate founders into surrendering their life's work for fractions of its true value. The key to Steinberg's success was identifying brilliant innovators who lacked business sophistication, Maria explained during a press conference that announced the federal charges against Marcus Steinberg and his associates. They preyed on trust, exploited inexperience, and used legal complexity to hide theft behind legitimate-appearing contracts. But Maria's impact extended beyond exposing one criminal organization. Her work led to new regulations requiring enhanced disclosure in technology acquisitions, better protection for inventors' intellectual property rights, and training programs to help entrepreneurs recognize and avoid predatory business practices. Alexander watched with pride as Maria testified before congressional committees, spoke at legal conferences, and became recognized as one of the nation's leading experts on corporate fraud prevention. The cleaning lady, who had saved his fortune, had transformed into one of the most respected attorneys in technology law. "Maria," Alexander said as they walked through Chentech's expanded headquarters 6 months after their first conversation, "do you ever regret the years you spent cleaning offices instead of practicing law?" Maria considered the question thoughtfully. "Those 8 years taught me things about human nature and business practices that law school never could. I learned to observe without being noticed, to understand organizations from the bottom up, and to recognize that valuable expertise exists in unexpected places." She paused near a window overlooking Manhattan. "Besides, if I hadn't been cleaning that conference room, you would have signed that contract and lost everything. Sometimes our apparent setbacks position us for our most important contributions." Alexander smiled, understanding that Maria's hidden years had not been wasted time but preparation for the moment when her expertise would have maximum impact. The woman he had unknowingly employed as a cleaning lady had become not just his most trusted advisor, but a force for protecting other entrepreneurs from the predators who sought to exploit their innovations. In the end, Maria Santos had proven that intelligence and expertise often hide in plain sight, waiting for someone wise enough to recognize and respect them regardless of their temporary circumstances. Chapter 4. The Legacy of Hidden Wisdom. 1 year after Maria Santos had prevented Alexander Chen from signing away his future, the Santos Institute for Corporate Ethics occupied an entire floor of the Chentech Tower, serving as a beacon of protection for entrepreneurs worldwide. What had begun as one woman's courage to speak up had evolved into a comprehensive program that identified and neutralized predatory business practices across multiple industries. Maria stood before an audience of 500 technology entrepreneurs, venture capitalists, and legal professionals, delivering the keynote address at the first annual Conference on Corporate Fraud Prevention. Her transformation from invisible cleaning lady to internationally recognized expert in business ethics had become a legend in legal and business circles. "The most dangerous assumption in business," Maria told the packed auditorium, "is that expertise only exists where we expect to find it. Corporate predators succeed because they exploit our prejudices about who possesses valuable knowledge and who can be safely ignored." The audience included several entrepreneurs whom Maria had helped recover from fraudulent acquisitions, including Sarah Martinez, whose battery technology patents had been returned after Steinberg International's criminal enterprise was dismantled. "A year ago, I was cleaning conference rooms, while watching brilliant innovators make catastrophic decisions because they trusted the wrong advisors," Maria continued. "Today, we've established protocols that have prevented over $2 billion in fraudulent acquisitions and helped dozens of technology companies retain control of their innovations." Alexander watched from the front row with a mixture of pride and amazement. Maria's institute had revolutionized how the technology industry approached acquisition negotiations, providing free legal analysis for any entrepreneur who suspected predatory practices in their business dealings. The Steinberg case revealed that corporate fraud often succeeds through sophisticated legal manipulation rather than obvious deception, Maria explained to the audience. "Criminals with advanced degrees and expensive suits can steal more effectively than street thieves because their victims trust them and their methods appear legitimate." The investigation that Maria had led had resulted in Marcus Steinberg's conviction and a 25-year prison sentence. His associates had received similar punishment, and their criminal organization had been completely dismantled. More importantly, the legal precedents established during the prosecution had created new protections for technology entrepreneurs worldwide. "But our work extends beyond preventing fraud," Maria continued. "We're also focused on recognizing and utilizing expertise wherever it exists, regardless of social position or job." Title: The Santos Institute had implemented programs that identified valuable knowledge among overlooked populations. Immigrant professionals whose credentials weren't recognized, service workers with advanced education, and entrepreneurs whose innovations had been dismissed due to their backgrounds. "In our building, we employ former lawyers working as security guards, former engineers driving delivery trucks, and former professors cleaning offices," Maria said. "Not because they lack ability, but because circumstances have temporarily placed them in positions that don't reflect their capabilities. The Institute's Hidden Expertise initiative had become a model for corporations worldwide, demonstrating how companies could discover extraordinary talent among their existing workforce by looking beyond job titles to actual knowledge and skills. Dr. Patricia Hoffman, a former corporate attorney who had been working as a night janitor due to age discrimination, had become the Institute's Director of Regulatory Compliance after Maria recognized her expertise in securities law. Maria taught us that professional setbacks don't erase professional knowledge, Dr. Hoffman told the conference audience. My years of cleaning offices gave me insights into corporate culture that enhanced rather than diminished my legal capabilities. The most dramatic success story was Carlos Mendoza, a former technology executive who had been working as a cafeteria manager after losing his company to a fraudulent acquisition. Maria's team had helped him recover his stolen intellectual property and restart his business with venture capital funding arranged through the Institute's network. The Santos Institute represents a fundamental shift in how we think about human resources and corporate intelligence, said Jennifer Walsh, the venture capitalist who now served on the Institute's board of directors. Maria has proven that extraordinary talent exists throughout our society, often hidden by circumstances rather than lacking opportunity. During the conference's afternoon session, Maria conducted a live demonstration of contract analysis, showing how predatory clauses could be disguised within seemingly standard legal language. Using the actual Steinberg contract that had nearly destroyed Alexander's fortune, she walked the audience through each deceptive provision with the skill of someone who had spent decades identifying corporate fraud. Clause 47B appears to be standard intellectual property protection, Maria explained, highlighting specific language on the large screen. But the phrase, in perpetuity and across all potential applications, transforms reasonable company protection into unlimited personal servitude. The audience watched in fascination as Maria deconstructed the sophisticated legal trap that had been designed to steal Alexander's future innovations while appearing to offer standard business protection. The key to identifying fraud is understanding that legitimate contracts protect all parties, while predatory contracts benefit one party by deceiving another, Maria continued. When you see language that seems unnecessarily complex or broadly applicable, you should suspect deliberate obfuscation. After the conference, Alexander and Maria walked through the Institute's offices, observing the diverse team of professionals who had been given opportunities to use their expertise, regardless of their current circumstances. Maria, when you stopped me from signing that contract, did you imagine it would lead to all this? Alexander asked, gesturing to the bustling center of corporate ethics research and fraud prevention. Maria smiled. I just knew that I couldn't watch someone be destroyed when I had the knowledge to prevent it. Everything else has grown from that simple decision to speak up when I saw something wrong. Do you ever wonder how many other cleaning ladies are actually experts in their fields, working in positions that don't utilize their capabilities? That's exactly what drives our work, Maria replied. Every day we meet brilliant professionals who are driving taxis, cleaning offices, or working in restaurants because circumstances haven't provided them with opportunities that match their abilities. Our job is to create those opportunities. The Institute's success had attracted attention from governments worldwide. Maria had testified before the European Parliament about corporate fraud prevention, consulted with Asian technology ministers about protecting domestic innovation, and helped develop United Nations guidelines for ethical business practices in developing economies. The most rewarding aspect of our work, Maria told Alexander as they concluded their tour, is seeing people discover their own potential when someone finally recognizes their capabilities. That evening, as Maria worked late in her office overlooking Manhattan, she reflected on the journey that had taken her from refugee attorney to corporate cleaning lady to internationally recognized expert in business ethics. Her experience had taught her that setbacks often position people for greater impact than they could have achieved through conventional success. The contract that Marcus Steinberg had designed to steal Alexander's fortune had instead become the catalyst for protecting countless other entrepreneurs from similar predators. Maria's 8 years of enforced invisibility had prepared her to See corporate fraud from perspectives that traditional attorneys missed. Most importantly, Maria had proven that expertise and wisdom exist throughout society, often hidden by circumstances, but ready to emerge when someone has the courage to speak up and the wisdom to listen. Her warning about a fraudulent contract clause had saved more than Alexander's fortune. It had demonstrated that valuable insights could come from anyone, anywhere, if we're humble enough to recognize intelligence, regardless of its temporary circumstances. The story of Maria Santos and Alexander Chen reminds us that expertise and wisdom often hide in the most unexpected places, waiting for someone with the courage to speak up and someone else with the wisdom to listen. Maria's journey from hidden attorney to corporate ethics expert shows us that circumstances don't define capabilities, and that the most valuable insights often come from those we least expect to possess them. Her warning about a fraudulent contract didn't just save Alexander's fortune. It created a movement that protects entrepreneurs worldwide from corporate predators. If this story opened your eyes to the hidden expertise all around us and inspired you to look beyond job titles to recognize true capability, please like this video to help us share this crucial message about respecting intelligence wherever it appears. Subscribe to our channel for more incredible stories about wisdom, courage, and the power of speaking truth, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss content that could change how you see the people around you. Have you ever encountered unexpected expertise or been surprised by someone's hidden knowledge? Share your story in the comments below, and remember, the person who could save your future might be someone you've never thought to ask for advice.